بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سورة الأنعام آية 34. قال الله تعالى: ولقد كذبت رسل من قبلك فصبروا على ما كذبوا وأوذوا حتى أتاهم نصرنا ولا مبدل لكلمات الله ولقد جاءك من نبأ المرسلين. In this ayah, Allah Jalla wa Ala grants solace to the Prophet yet again. He says many messengers were kudhibat, belied. The walaqad we have spoken about before was for emphasis. He says they remained patient over their takdhib, meaning when the disbelievers belied them, the messengers remained patient. Wa'udhu, they were annoyed or slightly harmed until our help came to them. And he says none can change the words of Allah. What is intended here is when Allah promises His messengers that He will help them, no one can change this rule. So when Allah promises something, it must come to pass. None can alter it. And he says, there has reached you, O Prophet, the news of the messengers before you. Meaning to say how those messengers were belied, but they kept patient, and the final good end was for the messengers and their followers. So in other words, the same thing will be for you as well. So keep patient on the delivery of your message. So reflecting on ayah number 34, the major lesson to take from this ayah is that when solace is given to the Prophet in this ayah, and as well as many other ayat that we have come across, this is also a solace to us as well. When we give da'wah, which we of course ought to be giving, then we will be belied, we will be rejected, we will be challenged, even mocked and abused. But the previous messengers were met with the same fate or even worse fate, and yet they kept patient. So if they can do it, so can we, because they are our role models. So this ayah is a solace for all those giving da'wah. We also learn of the virtue of keeping patient, and that the nasr, the help of Allah Jalla wa Ala, eventually does come to those who are patient. And it is as we have read in Surah Al-Baqarah ayah 214, أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ وَلَمَّا يَأْتِكُمْ مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ خَلَوْا مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ مَسَّتْهُمُ الْبَأْسَاءُ وَالضَّرَّاءُ وَزُلْزِلُوا حَتَّى يَقُولَ الرَّسُولُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ مَتَى نَصْرُ اللَّهِ أَلَا إِنَّ نَصْرَ اللَّهِ قَرِيبٌ. We can also take that the enemies are not going to content themselves just by disbelieving. That would not actually be too much of a problem. Rather, they're going to cross the red line and try to hurt the messenger and his followers. So again, we need to be prepared to be patient. The Prophet ﷺ told us, وَأَعْلَمْ أَنَّ النَّصْرَ مَعَ الصَّبْرِ. Know that help comes after patience. وَأَنَّ الْفَرَجْ مَعَ الْكَرْبِ. And that relief comes after the distress. وَأَنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. And that ease comes with difficulty. And this is the way of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Opposites come together hand in hand. Another point of benefit we can take is that only Allah is able to help you, not other people. You may find other nations or people who are incredibly powerful from a military perspective. It matters not how much power they have, they are not able to help you. Help is from Allah Jalla wa Ala alone. One might ask, but what if other people actually help me physically? Is help not from them? In that case, the answer is, it is only because Allah so willed. If He did not will that, then the other people would not help you. We also learn there is no changing the words of Allah. And the words of Allah are of two types, kawniyah and shar'iyah. Kawniyah is the universal qadr of Allah Jalla wa Ala. For example, He orders the sun to rise in the east and set in the west. No one can change this. So no one can change the qadr of Allah Jalla wa Ala. If He wills that the messengers and His people will be helped, then they will be helped. There is no one to change this. As for the kalimat shar'iyah, this is the scripture, then again no one can change this. Certainly this is the case for the Quran, but what about the case for the other scriptures which have been tampered with? we say, no, you have not changed the words of Allah. You cannot change the actual reality of the words of Allah. In changing these words, what you've really done is that you've made up your own scripture, which you are now following. So now you are no longer following the original scripture, you are following your own man-made scripture. But no one can change the reality of the scripture. The original Torah and the original Injil, they are what they are, unchanged. If people now, from the Jews and Christians, choose to follow corrupted words and essentially make up their own scripture, then that's on them. And that is totally their problem. One might ask, but is it not true that in the Quran we have ayat which are abrogated? Therefore the words are changed. We say absolutely, some ayat are indeed abrogated, but this is not done by an external source. It is Allah alone who changes the rules. So we can say that no one can change the words of Allah except for Allah Himself, when He deems that to be fit. We also take that Allah Jalla wa Ala sends to the Prophet news and information of the previous prophets and messengers. And the reason why He does that is to give solace to the Prophet and also inspiration as well to the Prophet, so that the Prophet would be inspired by the prophets before him, and that his heart may remain firm on this message. Ayah number 35. وَإِن كَانَ كَبُرَ عَلَيْكَ إِعْرَاضُهُمْ فَإِنْ اسْتَطَعْتَ أَنْ تَبْتَغِيَ نَفَقًا في الأرض أو سلما في السماء فتأتيهم بآية ولو شاء الله لجمعهم على الهدى فلا تكونن من الجاهلين. He says kabura, meaning big. Here it means if it is too great for you. If their i'rad, their aversion to you, or their turning away from you, if that is too great for you to bear, he says, then if you are able to dig a tunnel, a nafaq, which is a tunnel in the ground, or go up into the sky using a sullam, a ladder, to bring an ayah, to bring a sign, meaning to say a sign that will prove to the disbelievers that you are a true prophet, then do so. The jawab al-shart here is missing because it is implied. If you're able to do it, then do so. No problem. So the ayah is telling the Prophet, you can go as low as you want, digging under the ground, or you can go as high as you want, up into the sky, searching for some sort of sign to prove your veracity, then do so. And the point about this ayah is that Allah Jalla wa Ala is telling the Prophet, do not feel despondent that they turn away from you. Your job is not to make them believe. And the reason why Allah Jalla wa Ala is giving this instruction to the Prophet is because the Prophet would become despondent. Because, like we said before, the Prophet was more merciful to the people than they were to themselves. And so because of his compassion, he would feel dispirited. He says if Allah had so willed, he would have gathered all of them together upon guidance. So again, this is by way of solace to the Prophet. But the hikmah of Allah Jalla wa Ala dictates that not everyone is worthy of guidance. Some are worthy of Jahannam. And He issues the prohibition to the Prophet, do not be from the Jahilin. Notice the noon shadda, فَلَا تَكُونَنَّ. This is for emphasis. You must not be from the Jahilin. Normally Jahil is the one who is ignorant. The ones who are ignorant normally behave foolishly because they do not know what is right from wrong. So Jahil often refers to foolish people because they behave in a way that an ignorant person would normally behave, which is in a reckless and misguided fashion. Now of course the Prophet was never going to be ignorant or foolish. Allah Jalla wa Ala would protect him from that. However, this order is for continuation, and it also applies to us as well. Reflecting on ayah number 34, we take, like we said before, the Prophet had much compassion for his people, and it was difficult for him to witness his people turning away from his message. And so we too should have the same compassion in delivering the message and being eager for the people around us to be guided. We also learn that if people turn away from you, and most of them will, then do not let that get to you and make you feel dispirited and despondent. Keep patient and persevere in delivery of the message, as this ayah makes us realize that there is literally no sign we could bring to some people to make them accept the message. We find that Allah Jalla wa Ala is the one who guides alone, and if He wanted to, He could force all of mankind into accepting His message, but His wisdom dictates that He should give people free will to choose whether they want to accept or reject. We also take the order not to be from the foolish in the way we speak and behave. So that is to say, our lifestyle needs to be animated by the Quran and the Sunnah. And from the ways of the foolish people is to become impatient when the people reject your message. Ayah number 36. إنما يستجيب الذين يسمعون والموتى يبعثهم الله ثم إليه يرجعون. He says, only those who listen will answer, meaning answer your call. The word يسمعون means to hear, but this is not just any old hearing, because the kuffar can certainly hear the truth, but rather يسمعون means when you hear and respond positively and accept and submit, that type of hearing. Then he goes on to say, وَالْمَوْتَى, then as for the dead people, referring to the kuffar here, not to the biologically dead people, because the kuffar are analogous to dead people. Dead people cannot hear your message, obviously. The kuffar, even though they can physically hear your message, that is to say, they have auricular hearing, that comes from the word aural, A-U-R-A-L, which means pertaining to the ear or hearing. So they can hear you in that sense, but they do not have submissive hearing, that is to say, when you hear the truth and submit to it. So in that case, your auricular hearing is of no use. In the same way, the kuffar have ocular vision, ocular pertaining to the eye or sight, but they do not have the submissive vision, that is, when they see the truth, they do not submit to it. So in this sense, the kuffar are likened to dead people, who also can neither hear nor see the truth. He says, as for them, يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ, Allah will raise them up, meaning resurrect them from their graves, and then to Him, meaning to Allah, they shall return, of course, for judgment. Reflecting on ayah number 36, we learn the major lesson that if your hearing, and your sight for that matter as well, do not allow you to recognize the truth for what it is, then your hearing and your vision are not fulfilling their purpose, and therefore you may as well be blind or deaf. And even in English they have this saying, none are so blind as those who will not see. So it's all about hearing the truth for what it is and seeing the truth for what it is. We also take from this ayah that because Allah Jalla wa Ala likens the kuffar to dead people because the kuffar cannot hear the truth for what it is, it would therefore follow that the dead people cannot hear. Now that may seem obvious. However, we find so many people making dua to dead people for intercession. Those people need to know that the dead people cannot hear your dua that you're making to them. So how on earth are they supposed to answer your dua? Apart from the fact that this is just pure shirk, from a rational standpoint of view, it makes no sense to speak to somebody or to call to somebody who cannot hear you. And we also take the Aqidah point that the resurrection is real. This is one of the evidence. Notice how he says, ثُمَّ إِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ, and then to Him they will be returned. He mentions to Him first before the verb, so this gives us the sense that to Him alone they will return. Otherwise he could have said ثُمَّ يُرْجَعُونَ إِلَيْهِ. It has the same meaning, but it does not have the same feeling. because it does not give the idea or the feeling or the sense that to Allah alone you will be returned, not to anyone else. هذا والله أعلم.